Hello, anybody who's watching this. Welcome to my reaction to Abandoned on a Dive Trip and Lost Forever, Last Moments. Sounds quite morbid, and it probably is. It's from Qxir again, Qxir. And again, it's recommended by Tom Vinton instead of the one I had a problem with. Or, I guess we had a... well, it doesn't matter. And I am recording this on a different day because I did not notice this link before. So I'm stupid, but it is gonna come out after the first one, so even though I'm focused on this problem in the last video a lot, I hope I hope this solves the problem, I hope this solves the problem. I hope this solves the problem, now that I'm done everything you asked for. So now it makes much more sense. Anyway, before we begin, did you know that 91% of you are not subscribed? Hit that subscribe button right below the video, the red one. It's so helpful. But it is true, 91% of viewers on my channel are not subscribed, so that's good. At least it was like a couple of weeks ago, I didn't check. Anyway, another thing is that if you want to recommend me a video, you can use the initial link in the description below. That will help our channel and me personally a fuck ton of a lot, and I will react to your video as soon as I can. See you on that page. That doesn't make sense. Let's begin. That didn't do anything.
98, a couple are making the most of their travels in Australia by partaking in a tourist diving trip. They take a boat out to the Great Barrier Reef, and after less than an hour of scuba diving, they re-emerge to take the boat back to shore. But the boat is not there, nor are any of the other passengers. The two divers are alone, floating in an infinite void under an empty sky. No one is coming to save them.
I was wondering if it's a newer or older video, because there's no...
Tom and Eileen Lonergan met in Louisiana State University in the United States. While here, Eileen had taken up scuba diving as a hobby and persuaded Tom to do the same. When the two graduated, they married each other with a shared vision of traveling the world. To this end, they joined the Peace Corps and taught in Tuvalu and Fiji. At the conclusion of their 2-year tour of duty, they decided to head to Australia, the Great Barrier Reef being on their sightseeing list. On the 25th of January, they pay 160 Australian dollars for a scuba diving trip from Port Douglas, Queensland. A 26-passenger boat, the Outer Edge, would take them 40 miles offshore for 3 separate dives along the Great Barrier Reef. At 3 p.m. they are making their third and final dive. Other passengers recall seeing the couple in the water before the group dispersed and the two went off to explore together. Less than an hour later, the crew on the Outer Edge sound a whistle to gather the passengers back on board so they can be taken back to shore, signaling the end of the day trip. Naturally, it is up to the crew to perform a head count to make sure everyone is out of the water before they head back. This should be a fairly straightforward procedure, but today it is not. Either a mistake had been made during the head count, or it had not been performed at all, because when the Outer Edge departs, Tom and Eileen are not on board. Somehow neither the crew nor the other divers notice their absence. The Lonergans would have resurfaced to a sea devoid of any hint of mankind's existence.
That's
its
terrifying.
Emptiness stretching beyond the horizons. Confusion must have followed. Surely they couldn't have strayed that far from the boat. But as hours passed, alone under the blistering Australian sun, confusion gives way to panic.
Yeah, fear probably kicks in quite fast.
When the Outer Edge makes it back to shore, still no one realizes the group is missing 2 of its members. Bizarrely, the fact that 2 sets of diving equipment are missing and a bag is left unattended on the boat goes unnoticed. This remains to be the case the following day. The Outer Edge takes another batch of tourists out for a diving trip and back without incident. It is 2 days after the Lonergans' disappearance that someone finally registers that something has gone wrong. On the 27th of January, a crew member examines the forgotten bag on the dive boat. Inside, he finds the Lonergans' belongings, including wallets and passports. Tom and Eileen had been diving on the outer edge 2 days ago. If they had accidentally left the bag behind once they reached the shore, it seemed likely they would have made an attempt to recover it by now. The alarm is raised, and extensive sea and air searches are carried out over the next 3 days. Tom and Eileen Lonergan are never found. Theories as to what might have happened to them abound. It's possible they were attacked by sharks or simply died of dehydration, but some think the Lonergans may have played a role in their own disappearance. It's been suggested that they had purposefully staged their deaths and clambered aboard a nearby boat to begin new lives. It seems outlandish, and their bank accounts and life insurance policies remained untouched after their disappearance. Some think the couple may have committed suicide, or even murder-suicide. An examination of Tom's diary revealed some disturbing entries. An excerpt dated just 6 months before the trip read, "Like a student who has finished an exam, I feel that my life is complete, and I am ready to die. As far as I can tell, from here my life can only get worse. It has peaked, and it's all downhill from here until my funeral." Just 2 weeks before the trip, Eileen's diary had a similarly alarming entry. Tom hopes to die a quick and painless death, and he hopes it happens soon. Tom's not suicidal, but he's got a death wish that could lead him to what he desires, and I could get caught in that. As damning as the entries are, they have been dismissed by the few people who had access to the full diaries: the families, the coroner, and the police. They say that the leaked passages were taken out of context, and the rest of the diaries are not indicative of an oncoming tragedy. In the months following their vanishing, more evidence would emerge that shines light on the most widely accepted sequence of events that occurred after the Lonergans were abandoned. In February, a wetsuit in Eileen's size washed ashore in North Queensland. Experts examined barnacles found growing on the wetsuit and estimated that it had been submerged since the 26th of January, the day after the couple had departed on the outer edge. The wetsuit was partially torn, although this was put down to contact with coral rather than an animal attack. In June, more diving gear was found washed up on the area's beaches. These items gave credence to the fears the wetsuit had elicited. Among them were dive jackets marked with Tom and Eileen's names. Once again, the gear did not bear signs of violent damage. A fisherman 100 miles north of the site found the most chilling remains of all, a dive slate with a written note. Though the writing had been faded by months in the water, its message was still legible.
Anyone who can help me. Dependent on 11 p.m. Please help us on Thursday. Or will I help? That music doesn't help. And I wonder.
The handwriting was positively identified.
I wonder why he didn't
Tom
read it out
Lonergan's.
loud like the previous
From
ones.
this evidence, it seems apparent the Lonergans survived a day in the open waters. Under the scorching sun, with no suitable water to drink, they would have begun to suffer severe dehydration. It's thought that this brought about a state of delirium, which led them to freeing themselves of their diving gear. Without the buoyancy provided by the diving gear, they would have soon tired of treading water and drowned. The skipper of the outer edge was charged with Tom and Eileen Lonergan's unlawful killing. He was found not guilty, but his company was fined for negligence and went out of business. Queensland's bustling dive industry suffered a major publicity scare, and the government enacted stricter regulations to make sure dive trips upheld a higher standard of head counts and maintaining dive logs. To this day, the Lonergans have never been found. There may always be suspicions surrounding the circumstances of their disappearance, but the unfortunate truth is, the most agonizing story seems the most likely. That, in at least a 24-hour period, roasting in a still desolation, ragged physically and mentally, they spent their last moments.
That's horrible. That's a horrible way to go. I feel like in the middle of the desert it would be a better way to go than the middle of the ocean, because at least you can be standing in a desert, but in the middle of the ocean you're just fucked. I've never been in salty waters. As far as I know, it's much easier to swim in that, to stay on top of it, but you probably still need to use your energy to keep yourself afloat. I don't know. That's quite depressing. Why did you do this to me, Tom? Okay. So instead of a funny SDF movie type video, I watched this depressing thing. Okay. Being punished, I guess. I don't want to say. I don't want to make any jokes because it feels out of place. I usually joke about anything, but this feels out of place. Probably almost nobody gonna watch this video anyway, so I can probably joke. Whatever. Just thank you for watching this. I hope to see you next time, and goodbye. Have a great life. Have a great life, because one of us has to.